Biafra, superstars, media.
Dear UN, United Nations, you have spoken again that 200 people abducted by Boko Haram in Borno State. To the UN, to the United Nations, you need to know that those abducted were Christians. Christians were abducted by the Nigeria Fulani jihadist Muslims in a bid to Islamize Nigeria. To the UN, this is what we've been telling you. It is time you broke up that zoo, that contraption created by Britain, a slave master. A slave master created Nigeria. You said slavery is gone. You said slavery is dead. You said you have abolished slavery. But the handiwork of Britain is still there. Nigeria is a product of Britain. Nigeria was a product of colonization. Colonization is just a nice word. They came in to enslave the people. The people that claim to be Nigeria today, they were enslaved, overpowered by Britain, and they were given a name by Britain. They were given a culture by Britain. To the UN, do you know that the name Nigeria means nothing in any language, in any local language, in that contraption you call Nigeria? The name Nigeria is alien. It is foreign to the people, the indigenes of that land. All we are saying is it is time for you to intervene. We, the Biafrans, we are saying we are done with this. They have killed us enough. They have pillaged our land enough. We have died enough for that contraption called Nigeria. There is no rule of law. You know how our leader was kidnapped from Kenya and brought to Nigeria since June 2021, and he is still there. Nothing is being done. They have said he should be released, but the Fulani cabal, those that were told by Britain they were born to rule, they have refused to release him. To the UN, oh my God, it is time you do what is right. As I say, oil and water cannot mix. The Christians and the Jews in Nigeria cannot mix with the Fulani jihadists. We are saying we are different nation. The name Nigeria is just, something and something artificial. We are not Nigerians. We are different nations entrapped in that contraption called Nigeria. We have been entrapped in that contraption called Nigeria. That's what we are saying. It's a fallacious statement to say we are Nigerians. We are not Nigerians. We are not one people. Britain made us what we are today. Now to the UN, I want you to listen to this pastor, a man of God. Listen to what he says, and I hope this will help to open your mind to even see what the so-called men of God are talking in the pulpit. Listen to him, and I'll come back. Listen.
I pray God will give Ashwaju the courage to do it, because it will affect even himself. It will affect all the APC powers. It will affect all the MDs of banks. The MDs of banks are the destroyer of this system. The powerful, the high and the mighty. He is stepping on their toes. I pray God give him the grace to do it. The next thing he should do, tell him if you know him, is to restructure this country. Nigeria is a fraud. One particular tribe repressing the whole of us. Did you hear what central bank governor wants to do? Just a department, the operation department of central bank, to be moved back to Lagos, where you have 99% of the headquarters of bank. The north is agitating. Don't take Abuja back to Lagos. They don't care. If you all become beggars, it's okay for their oligarchic mentality. I talk like no other pastor talk. I talk like no other pastor talk. Because I have seen into governance, I have seen into the church. And I know where the problem is in this country. Are you hearing me? They may not like what I'm saying, but they cannot dispute the truth. This country cannot go on like this. Okay, I was talking about those who migrated. I don't blame those that want to japa. You know, initially I was saying don't japa. Do you hear me say that again? Japa if you want to japa. Because you look at the country and say, what future? If it goes on like this, what future? If it goes on like this, civil war is imminent. If it goes on like this, military intervention is imminent. Do we want to go back to that? No. Something must happen. I have always believed that something must happen. Do you see the way we pray in this church? Make Nigeria one. We don't pray. Nigeria is not one, and it can never be one. We are different nations tied together by force. We should still be one country, but let everyone govern himself the way he likes. Are you hearing me? Let the Niger Delta have their oil. Let the East have their resources. Let the Yoruba people have their resources. Let the North have their resources. Let them manage their security. Give them state police. Let everybody guard his borders. Let everybody generate his economy. Why must we generate oil in the Niger Delta and take it to the north? Why must we generate IGR here, or the VATs, and take it to the north that generate nothing? The 10 key northern states have Sharia. Sharia says no to alcohol. Sharia says no to tobacco. But alcohol and tobacco is what give us VAT here. And you take the money from there to spend where you say you don't want, but you like the money. Fraud, unfairness, injustice. Where did we sit down to make Nigeria 36 states?
Listen.
Where did we sit down?
Listen.
Nigeria was negotiated 3 regions.
Listen.
North, West, East. 1963, by plebiscite, Midwest came in. Where did we sit down and say we shall be 36 states?
Listen.
Plus Abuja, and the biggest one taken to the north. More local governments. Then we came with federal character. You are qualified, but from the tribe you came from, you can't be qualified. Now, you can't pass any law in that National Assembly without Northern approval. They are in larger quantity. Deliberately made so. So how do we go from there?
No way to go from there, my dear pastor. I will have to break this video down one by one, line for line, because I wish sometimes people might have a good listening skills. So for those who did not get what this pastor was saying, I will have to break it down. I have to break it down. If you are ready, come with me on this journey. Listen, to the UN, to the United Nations, I needed to listen to what this pastor was saying. Somebody who is a pastor, who believes in Nigeria. Look at his perspective about what is happening in that so-called Nigeria. Listen.
God will give Ashwaju the courage to do it, because it will affect even himself. It will affect all the APC powers. It will affect all the MDs of banks. The MDs of banks are the destroyer of this system. The powerful, the high and the mighty. He is stepping on their toes. I pray God give him the grace to do it. The next thing he should do, tell him if you know him, is to restructure this country. Nigeria is...
Unfortunately, that won't be able to be possible, because even the man they call the president of Nigeria, Mr. Tinubu, he is scared of the caliphate. He assumes he's working with the caliphate, and there is no way he'll be able to call for a restructure. That is the problem with Nigeria. The moment somebody is about to discuss restructuring to the Fulani Caliphate, to those in the north, to those who were told they were born to rule by Britain, they assume you are talking about war. They assume you're talking about taking away from them. They assume you're talking about stealing from their birthright. They assume you're about taking what belongs to them, what was given to them by Britain. They assume you are trying to take away their power. They assume you are trying to make them become useless. So they not prefer the way things are. They know Nigeria is not working. They know the economy of Nigeria is not working. They know that in an inequality in the land. They know there is poverty in their land. They know the current way Nigeria is cannot sustain itself, but they prefer it that way because they are coming with an higher, I'll say a higher way of doing things. They are looking at the way to take over Nigeria, and Almajiri culture is a formula that they could use to make Nigeria theirs. The moment they conquer Nigeria, then they can start looking at Nigeria like in Saudi Arabia. The moment they can conquer Nigeria, they will start rebuilding Nigeria like Kuwait. The moment they can conquer Nigeria, they will start looking at Nigeria in the way you look at, Qatar and this other oil-rich country. Their number one goal, their number one priority is to conquer Nigeria. Once they conquer Nigeria and Islamize Nigeria, then everybody in Nigeria becomes an Islam or an Islamic person. You become a Muslim. If you choose not to become a Muslim, you become an infidel and you become a lesser than a human in that so-called Nigeria. The same way it is in Saudi Arabia. When you go to Saudi, those who claim they are not, Christians, or those who say they are not Muslims, they are left in the periphery. It means they are not even, they are inconsequential. That is the blueprint of the caliphate. The first goal is to Islamize Nigeria. And once they Islamize Nigeria, they can now start looking towards developing Nigeria to become the Saudi Arabia of Africa, to become the Dubai of Africa, to become the Qatar of Africa. That is the blueprint. So if you are assuming that right now they are going to help to make Nigeria great, you are wasting your time. If you assume that right now they will allow you to say you want to restructure Nigeria, you are wasting your time because it is against their blueprint. I hope I've made myself clear. I am trying my best to make myself clear. Let's continue.
The fraud. One particular tribe repressing the whole of us. Did you hear what central bank governor wants to do? Just a department, the operation department of central bank, to be moved back to Lagos, where you have 99% of the headquarters of bank. The north is agitated. Don't take Abuja back to Lagos. They don't.
That is the language. The zoo government and Nigerian government, they were trying to move the operational department of the Central Bank of Nigeria to be among the, in a location where you have other headquarters of the bank. And in Lagos, that is the headquarters of 99% of all the banks in Nigeria. So it makes sense. It is logical for the Central Bank of Nigeria to be located in Lagos where you have the other headquarters. So there can be synergy. There can be, a better means of communications. There can be a better way, to carry out activities and all those stuff. There can be a better, more pronounced way of regulating the other banks. More, mutual understanding and more building more rapport. But to the Fulani oligarchs, they don't believe in that. They see the central bank as the purse of the north. They see the central bank as the oil well of the north. They see the central bank as the wallet of the north. And when it's in the north, it means they could easily influence the head of the central bank. For example, the man they call Emefiele, you saw the way he was used. He was, abused as well in office. He was, they promised him heaven, and they even promised him presidency. When he was cajoled into believing that they were going to make him the president, he forgot about the principles and the policies of the central bank. He was now doing things against the policies of central bank by printing out money, without following due process. Unfortunately for him, his so-called leader, his president, then Buhari, was the one that told him to print those money. Unfortunately for him, the then head of government, Muhammadu Buhari, was the one who told him to print the enormous money he printed. But the Tinubu government of today, they are scared of Buhari because he's a Fulani man. So Emefiele is the man taking the brunt. Emefiele is the man being persecuted, which is why I tell you that Nigeria cannot work. There is no way Nigeria can work because those who are responsible As long as you are from the Fulani tribe, you are exempted. You will not be persecuted. So this pastor was making a point when he said the central bank, should be moved, or a particular department should be moved to Lagos. But because that is where the oil, the butter, and the bread of the caliphate is being, abstracted every day, they will not allow it. That is where they make their money. That is where they can do fraud and nobody will ask them, because the head of the central bank is located in Abuja. So that is the game they play. Nigeria is a farce. Nigeria is a fraud. Let us continue.
Yeah. If you all become beggars, it's okay for their oligarchic mentality. I talk like no other pastor talk. I talk like no other pastor talk.
Talk your talk.
Because I have seen into governance, I have seen into the church.
Talk your
and
talk.
I know where the problem is in this country. Are you hearing me? They may not like what I'm saying, but they cannot dispute the truth. This country cannot go on like this. Okay, I was talking about those who migrated. I don't blame those that want to japa. Initially I was saying don't japa. Do you hear me say that again? Japa if you want to japa.
He's saying here that the country cannot be the way it is. Formerly, he was telling the youths, he was telling the people not to migrate. People they chose to become economic migrants. They wanted to leave Nigeria because Nigeria was not working. As a pastor back then, as a man of God back then, he was telling the people not to leave Nigeria. He was telling the people to love Nigeria. He was telling the people to remain in Nigeria. But now his eyes is open. The peg in his eyes has been removed. He now knows that Nigeria cannot work. He now knows that Nigeria cannot function as a state. So he's telling them, leave if you want to leave, because this Nigeria cannot work. Leave the country. Go to greener pastures. Who am I to stop you from going or seeking for a better tomorrow? Go and seek happiness. Go in search of happiness abroad. Go to the Western world. Go around the whole world and leave this Nigeria alone, because Nigeria is a burning house. Nigeria is a sinking ship. This is what this pastor is saying in the pulpit. Let's continue.
Because you look at the country and say, what future? If it goes on like this, what future? If it goes on like this, civil war is imminent. If it goes on like this, military intervention is imminent.
To the UN, this is what we, the Biafrans, we have been trying to avoid, which is why we are saying we want to leave Nigeria peacefully. If Nigeria goes on the way it's going on, if Nigeria continues in this trajectory, then there is bound to be civil war. There is bound to be a military takeover, which they call a military coup. But guess what? It will still be the Fulani cabal, the members of the Fulani oligarchs who are in military, that will take over. It means the Northerners, the Fulanis, they are in control of Nigeria. That is the problem. It's like you are in a dilemma. Damn if you do, damn if you don't. If you say, okay, you want to break away from Nigeria, there might be a civil war. If you say, okay, you are tired of Nigeria, things are not working because the economy is going down, the military can take over. And once there is a military intervention, those who are going to do that intervention are the Fulani oligarchs, those in the north, the hardcore Muslims who are pretending to be military men. When they take over Nigeria, they will take all the departments, all the economic departments, all the governmental parastatals, they will move it back to the north. They will give Nigerian to northern, elites, to the northern men to become the military generals all across Nigeria. To the UN, make haste while the sun shines. Nigeria must be free. You must free Nigeria. Let them go their separate ways. We, the Biafrans, we are saying we are done with Nigeria. Our business with Nigeria is done and dusted. We have nothing else in common with Nigeria. I am saying to the UN, you are the one that said it just yesterday, that 200 people were abducted. What I am trying to make you know is that it was 200 Christians and 200 women in Borno State. This is what is happening in Nigeria. Nigeria is a fraud. Nigeria is a fraud. Nigeria is a fraud. I will end it here, my people. I will end it here. For those who have ears, let them hear. For those who have ears, let them hear. From me, from here, for now, I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I remain Biafra, Superstars Media. God bless you.
Yeah, check me out. Superstars Media. Lord Lugard, Bloomington, Lord Lugard, and it's wild Flora show. 1914 amalgamation is what we dying for. 3 nations to 1 nation, ever since annihilation. Nepotism is nonsense. You and you, clap your hands. Biafra gonna come, clap your hands. Biafra, Oduduwa, we're free now. Freedom is gonna come, we're free now. Yeah.